Ciao Matteo.
Ciao Luca, and welcome back everybody.
And Ferragosto has passed. We left it behind us. But this year was different. Like I don't know, like years and years of going, to listen at the beach under the umbrellone and the sdraina. You always hear about, these people, they got together. Kimi Antonelli is dating and this and that, and then there was a Sinner now that everyone was talking about him.
Everybody talks about Sinner, and everybody wants to play tennis or paddle. Luca, Italy is all about tennis, paddle, Sinner, and Temptation Island, which has finished.
And Temptation Island.
Of course.
So we should say
thank you.
Hi to our friend
at Mediaset.
Oh no, I made this at Temptation Island.
It's Mediaset.
Fabio and all the team.
Exactly. Hi, folks.
We should have Fabio once to talk about Temptation Island.
Probably the exact perfect person for discussing that.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask him then after our banter. I'm gonna ask him what he thinks about Temptation Island. But the other topic after Sinner, his girlfriend, his Ferrari, tennis, Fabio, and Temptation Island was AI.
Yeah. Everybody AI.
AI. I mean, I was expecting, I don't know, at my time, everyone was talking about Lady D, and now 30 years later, they talk about AI. It's kind of funny. I would make a joke because in Canada, everyone is talking about the sovereign AI, right? It's the new kind of thing, political thing.
Yeah. Also in Europe is a thing, yeah.
Alice is like, everyone was like excited about talking that because finally they got, useless people, they got useful into talking about sovereign AI. So back to Lady D. No kidding. Back to AI.
Yes.
Nobody talked about the most Italian thing and the most popular thing, in my honest opinion, in the hacker world, because that's the only place where it's living. That is Salvatore's new project. Not so new, but new, let's say new project.
New projects. Yeah, not so new at this point, but yeah.
Not so new. But we have an Italian that is again changing the industry.
Yes.
Salvatore Sanfilippo, for the two people in the universe that don't know, is the creator of Redis. We can say the most popular database or
NoSQL database.
NoSQL database in the world, powering
everybody.
99% of the internet. And now he created something for AI. And you're using it, right?
Oh yes, I'm using it as part of my kit. I'm using it every day, more or less. So it's actually, I think it's extremely powerful on one hand, extremely limited in the other hand. So you need to know what are the limitations of the tool, but it's existing, like liberating to some extent. Okay, so we are talking about Dwarf Star IV, which is the project that Salvatore started a while back. Okay, and it's essentially it's a custom harness for running models, and where
local models.
Local models, yes. Like for running models, you can run it on a server if you want. So it's for open weight models. Open weight. The right term is open weight. For running open weight, a few selected open weight models where all the code that is built into this server, written in C, okay, is highly optimized for that specific weights. Okay, so it optimizes the C code to run the model to the model itself. Okay, and it has those kind of combinations. And the models that it supports, it's started with DeepSeek V4 Flash, okay, where he did a very interesting quantization and of it. Do you know what is quantization, right, Luca? But you can explain to the audience. You're very better than me, probably, at this.
What do you mean now? Sorry.
So if you have, when you have a weight, an open weight model, or an LLM model, every single tensor in the neural network, whatever, is the so-called weights. Those weights, each one of them is they are encoded in a certain amount of bits. Okay, you can find them at 16 bits, 8 bits, or 4 bits, or something like that. Okay, and he did what Salvatore did with DeepSeek. Okay, he found that because of the DeepSeek V4 is generically a mixture of expert model, which means that it has a lot of experts, that each one of them activate only a few weights. Okay, so it's a model that can be that require less hardware overall, just because of this kind of architecture, and then it has a routing layer in front. Okay, so he has found that by keeping a high quantization to the routing layer, and then quantizing hard down to 2 bits, the experts, he could retain most of the so-called intelligence of the model. So I'm explaining this very high level.
No, but
definitely not an expert for this.
Is not actually a kind of like new concept, right? Because it uses the same concept as synapses, right? It's not kind of like he's trying to compress the pointer to the allocation of memory as fast as possible.
But by doing all of that, okay, he was able to squeeze. Like, what's the problem? The problem with neural networks and LLMs in general is that they are super memory hungry. Okay, so a model like that, okay, would need a lot of memory to run, like 160 gig of memory without touching anything. Okay, but with this technique, it can fit in, let's say, 100, 110, something like that, which is the size of memory that you can buy, for example, the GB10, the GX Spark hardware, or the latest
MacBook Pro,
or the latest MacBook Pros. So you can buy those kind of hardware. Okay, you get 128 gig of memory, and now you can run these models that are very powerful on your local machine. Okay.
Now, it shows. Oh, sorry, Tori. I think what it shows is 2 things, in my honest opinion. The first one is well, many things, and I think we're going to touch them. But the most important that you just touch is what is so-called hardware commoditization, right? What Salvatore tried to do is, can I have commodity hardware to run high value open weight models, right? That they can do, I don't know, 80% of what people basically needs to do. The answer is yes, but at the same time, I think the real barrier for having commodity hardware would have been around less, let's say, having the memory even in half, because 64 gigs is becoming more accessible than 128 right now, unfortunately. But I'm thinking about the Mac Mini. I'm thinking about all the commodity hardware, right? But
right now, this kind of local AI play is something as an entry-level chip of maybe close to $5,000, something like that, to do anything that is, I think, useful, to be honest. Okay. It's very powerful. Other things were very powerful, but this DeepSeek is really good. DeepSeek V4 Flash is very good. There was a recent release in July that made it even better. But to be honest, like the advantage here is not it's a great model. First, it's a very good model, but that's not the main advantage. Okay,
but it's a day-to-day model, right?
It's a day-to-day model. Okay, you can use it if you want to. Like my typical usage here is you want a trivial bug fixed that you can explain how to fix that bug. Okay, perfect. You get the job done, no problem.
How many billion parameters?
It's I don't want to say something stupid, Luca, so let me zoom in, because otherwise I am going to...
Yeah, I also don't remember, because I think Salvatore said
208 billion. I don't know. Let me open it up.
There are different brackets.
No, it's fine. No, this one is it is what it is. It's 304 billion parameters.
Oh, okay. It's actually pretty deep.
Oh, it's pretty deep. It's a very big. That's why, in order to squeeze it into 128 gig device, you need to do this kind of extreme quantization to squeeze it up, essentially. And but you can, for example, run it in full precision at 4 bits in 160 gig or something. Like, it's a lot of memory. You need a lot.
What's your typical use case for?
My typical. So the reason why I got into any of this thing was back in between March and April. Okay, when they started to limit the models, what you can do with the models. Okay, and started saying, no, you cannot use this for doing any cybersecurity work. Okay, a lot of what I do is doing cybersecurity work. Okay, in the sense of I work on the Node.js team that does security. So a good chunk of what I do for Node core flags, like almost all my contribution time for Node goes into that box. Okay, or in essential keeping Node safe. Okay, now. The models switch, like AI, you cannot do that work today without massive AI assistance due to the heavy volume that we receive every day. Okay, it's insane. So, and on one end, on the other end, you are a whim of a government around in saying you cannot access that model anymore. Okay. To be clear, right now, what can be used for this kind of work is OpenAI, all OpenAI models, as long as you certify yourself as a cybersecurity professional, which involves, it's very easy. It involves giving your ID to OpenAI. Okay. So you put that OpenID, give your ID to OpenAI. You can do the same for Anthropic, but you don't have access to Fable with Anthropic. So all Anthropic only works with Opus at best, okay, right now, which is a big pain. And also OpenAI did not have access. They only added this not so long ago either. So anyway, they can, and the government, the US government, okay, can change this at any given point in time and saying that non-US citizens or this cannot be accessed outside of US soil. I don't know. They can invent whatever rule they can do to limit this access, and leaving essentially a lot of people out cold. So at that point in time,
but you can use Fable, right? But not for cybersecurity.
Not for cybersecurity work. No,
okay.
That's not possible. And it's very bad. Like, to be clear, anything that involves a pointer triggers cybersecurity warning in Fable. So you have these enormous capabilities, but then it's relatively useless for a good chunk of work. Okay, which is it's something that I generically don't really appreciate. Also because, to be honest, it's you're putting not giving access to security researchers that or open source maintainers that do this. It's a really, I think it put everybody in danger by not doing it. So, and I said it before that as Node.js we didn't ever got access to Mythos at all ever. So.
Isn't it kind of like the dog biting his own tail, that you build software that you cannot actually guarantee against his own security? Like not doing cybersecurity work in an open source project or in any project involves not actually validating that this software is secure, correct?
Yes.
Isn't it what actually the lobby of certifications has been actually living on for the past 20 or 30 years? Like the ISO stamp, the SOC, they're all BS, right?
Well, I would not go to that point, but yeah, more or less. I would. It's a stamp, okay? You certify something that you have been following certain procedures and everything, but the hard truth, I want to quote Linus Torvalds, or paraquote Linus Torvalds in his latest keynote, saying that now all the vulnerabilities, almost all the vulnerabilities are public, okay? Because if they can be generated by each one of these models, somebody can hack it, okay?
Which is true.
Absolutely.
Which honestly is stating also the obvious of open source philosophy, right? I'm surprised that he has to state the obvious and he's using the obvious.
The difference was that the traditional process that you need to do to be certified, secure, and so on and so forth, is to receive those patches privately, okay? But if any kid using any of those software can do this kind of work, and right now there is also Kimi that I think is pretty solid for this kind of work, and is not limited, but you're sending data to China, so okay. Question for you. Okay.
Wow, you're sending data to the US government, you're sending data to the European
community. But you're sending data to a lot of these kind of people. Okay. Anyway, you are finding all of this interesting information, and it's like that. Okay, somebody like very recently, a student, first year freshman at a university, opened me a super convoluted, more importantly, valid vulnerability in one of my open source projects. Okay. Super convoluted, crazy, and which with Kimi, okay, and on what he said, I know nothing of what I posted.
My question is, might be stupid, but if you open nowadays in the AI world this vulnerability, why don't you also send a patch?
Well, for this specific one, okay, my understanding is that even the models are not that level of autonomous to patch them, okay? In the sense that they require a certain level of product taste, okay? Because a lot of vulnerabilities, most of the time, okay, are you need to strike a barrier, a balance between security and developer experience, okay? Usually those the two things that come at a nod, okay? Typical example, okay? Listening as a developer server, listen on all socket interface, okay? You open your laptop in a cafe and somebody hack you. Fun, okay? Anyway, it's your responsibility because you listen to all interfaces. This is one side of things, okay? And you didn't run a firewall, your problem, okay? Reverse problem, okay, is this developer tool mistake that it did not protect you and did not run it with a safe default. Okay, this is the typical, the most simple one but there are way more complex cases. So anyway, this is those type of. It was a decision on that kind of debate, and especially with very complex vulnerabilities, it can be like, okay, this is very abstract vulnerability that can only apply on certain situation. You don't want to wreck the developer experience for everybody. You typically want to say, okay, if you are in this situation, it is the flag that you need to use to make yourself safe. Okay, because to be honest, most of the time that thing is not needed. Okay, it's something that you don't need to protect. So there is that kind of debate. Okay, but going back to the project and after security, you running it locally is very useful typically because nobody can block you. Okay, and then you have fun problems you need to start to deal with. Okay, power outages, internet outages at your home if you're traveling and you're not there. Okay, UPS are a thing. They told me. Okay, I recently. You need to make sure that you keep the AC on at your house if you're traveling, because otherwise, in the hot European summer, your local devices will overheat, okay, and shut down. This was fun. This didn't happen to my DJX Spark. It happened to my NAS. Okay, interesting one. Okay. So, but yeah, anyway, these kind of problems starting to be fun. But to be honest, I think it's a great device for what you want to use it for. Which you want to be independent, okay? Accept that you are maybe a gap with respect to the frontier level, and
well, but that's why they're called frontier models, right? Because they're ahead of those.
Absolutely. But then after that, the data is not leaving your system, so you can pass whatever data you want and be good.
Yeah, I think the trend is we see that the hardware is going to be a limitation of this model.
Oh yeah.
Right, because now accessing hardware is very expensive, especially memory, especially RAM. That's what is becoming very, very expensive. For this particular reason that you just said. Well, I mean, the model needs to be loaded, so it needs to go somewhere. The other one is the barrier of entry, I think, for the average developer is still very high, even in DS4 and so on. Is still, I think, a little bit high in terms of experience, but that one can be fixed. But the other one that is more important, and I think it triggers my thought, especially when I saw the tweet from our friends Dave and Muffintosh from Kit, seeing that their distributed peer-to-peer chat reached a spike in download. That's a clear demonstration that freedom of data is winning against any regulation.
Yeah, well, it goes going to Kit. We have Luca and myself. We have seen the origin of Kit. I think when Muffintosh started working with
Dave, if not Dave shared with us as the only way to chat with Kit 0.1.
Yeah, that did not work at all. Okay, but Muffintosh was working on some of that peer-to-peer technology back in 2016, 2015. We have seen the evolution. It's super stable. Anyway, going back to the core of that problem, there is a huge spike in owning your data, not sharing your data. We all know that the ICU renewed chat control, not good. No. I don't want my chat to be spied by anybody. Thank you, please. And Kit provide that essentially. Also, others tells you to provide that. Okay, but as long as there is a central frigging server, somebody can do something. The advantage of a technology like Kit is that it's fully peer-to-peer, and goodbye. Okay, you cannot do, the data is your own. Okay,
and very honestly, like, we are technologists, we are also kind of like nerds in that sense. The technology that is behind Kit is mad science, is extremely elegant, it's extremely futuristic. It lives in a space that is probably not, the space that you and I live in every day with the enterprise, but is a space that is extremely interesting. We should get Dave after all these holidays to chat about it, because I think the architecture behind is very interesting. But in full complete transparency, yes, I think the trend that I see. Oh, sorry, Tom.
Yeah, no, but Luca, it's very, going back to our enterprise core. Okay, to be honest, given the capability of something like DeepSeek, okay, DeepSeek Flash, and the cost in tokens for at full price, okay, of the major labs, okay, I can totally see that we are a world where we go back. My camera has died.
This is the censorship. Remember, you're fighting.
And we. So going to the point, I can totally see a world where companies, specific companies that have severe data ownership requirement, start using their own hardware or their own rented hardware for running those models at scale, okay, for their own developers. Because like running the math, okay, is the advantage of not having any data leaking at all is
well, that leaking at all is kind of like also a paradox, because then we could say that every single company has never had the data leaks if they own their own data, and it's not true.
Yeah, of course. That's not true. That's not true. But at least you can try.
Is the concept that we have been promoting for a very long time, the hashtag infrastructure freedom, right? It's like we see that DHH took out the unit of economics, but behind those unit of economics, there is a reality that company wants to be in control. That's why company are adopting more and more and more selfishly our software, because they have full control over what they're doing, and they don't want pass that they sit on top of hosting provider to kind of like retain any data or have control over their freedom. It's all a freedom. It's all a freedom. It's all a freedom act that we are that is happening. And I honestly, like, I'm very honest with you. Probably I say something that is not clean, but I'm wearing this hoop bracelet because it's interesting for my sleeping pattern and so on. But like, the fact that I don't have an API, there is an API, but they make it almost impossible to retrieve data from that API. Now, thanks to AI, there are plenty of open source projects that they say you can actually use your hoop without having to go to their cloud. And to be honest with you, I know that they're training their own models, but we already are fighting against hospital that they retain the data that is yours behind the Freedom of Information Act, which is ridiculous. If you don't know a doctor, you cannot get your medical chart unless you don't make a formal request. It's a ridiculous thing. I think it all starts really, and I'm not like a revolutionary person. I'm not kind of like, no, but I think certain stuff that needs to stay behind freedom of ownership. And so we see infrastructure, we see conversations, we see many other things, which, to be honest with you, on the chat model, I see a lot of issues for general security. But at the same time, I think we had less security issues in the past when we didn't have a centralized communication system, right? So I believe that decentralized is actually is not eliminating the problem. The problem is not going to be eliminated of security and so on. But
having all the data, having all your work data, all the data you produce in a day passed through a single provider.
I agree.
That sees it all without encryption.
Yeah, I agree.
Cares a lot. Cares
no, I agree.
That's why I am.
But another thing that I honestly dislike that, for example, Signal has or Telegram, but WhatsApp doesn't have. If I delete a chat with you, it deletes only for me, but you still keep the data, and I cannot say I want to wipe all the data. It's freaking ridiculous, right? This is like design for spies, basically.
Yeah, well.
But if you and I, even if you and I talk on the phone, this conversation is recorded by the telco. That they say that they don't do it, but I can tell you they actually get all the binary data of our conversation, right? Because they have a fiduciary against the government to retain the data for 7 years. You know this freaking data retention stuff is like they say data, and data in computer means bits, which means that you and I are talking right now, and it's stored in this server for 7
all
years.
All of it, encrypt all the things.
Come on. It's just like, no, encrypt all the things.
That's why Europe was again so in on chat control and not having encrypted chats.
Yeah, and then they put speed to control when you log into stuff. And come on, guys. Just like, I mean, I don't want to go into political discussion, but given that the heat is taking over, Theo, let's do this. We need to invite few people to continue this chat when the heat goes down, especially Dave. And we should try to get Salvatore one day to come and chat.
Oh, yeah, I know we can invite him. Absolutely. I would love to invite him. I can ask him. I can say, do you want to come to our podcast? I think
or why don't we pack our bags and go down to Sicily? So we find a good excuse to eat good food, the nice weather.
Man, let's do it. Let's do it. Right, we go to Catania and interview him live.
Salvatore, if you find a great restaurant with a great granita, we just need to find a date, and then we are going to be there.
We fly. I have a direct flight. Luca, do you have a direct flight to Sicily?
No, but it's not.
I do. So I
Vancouver,
have a direct flight.
Catania, I think not even in Elon Musk private jet can be done, but we can
ask Elon.
I'm gonna ask. He has 5, so he can borrow us one. Anyhow, ciao Teo. See you later.